Hi, welcome. On this video, I'm going to be adding some commentary to the video that I just put out on my YouTube channel. And it is the video on service dog training with Jax at the local Walmart. Now, here what happened was the audio didn't come through because with my GoPro, the audio file was corrupted. So I'm going to be doing commentary on what's actually happening in the video, just for information purposes, so people understand how training is done through the system, and so you can see what's get a kind of a inside track, so to speak, on how it's done through both owner and myself, and how I'm lining this up. So I'm going to play some of this here. You'll see now here, just to establish um, a baseline here as to how this is what's happening. Is here you'll see Jax is here, and he's right beside the owner Al, who's in the scooter, his electronic scooter, and here Al has a leash, okay, attached. So he's the front seat driver, and the leash is attached to the flat collar on Jax, and I have a second collar on the dog. I have the pressure collar on, and I'm in the back seat driving role. Okay, so I have a longer leash here. So I have a longer leash. So what I'm doing here is I'm lining this up. Okay, so I'm applying a skill set, okay, to Jax, to make sure that this is all you know, coming together properly, both mind and body. So I'm focusing in on the position. So here, just to understand what's going on, is that when Jax is investing, okay, because you can see on the video here as we're moving through the store, I'll play a little of this as we go, as Jax is investing. Now here, you see him look back at me a little bit, okay, because again, understand this is an issue about control. This is an issue about how he perceives certain people, okay, with what they're doing in these interactions, but defined relationally. So for example, when I'm doing service dog training, I'm actually taking the dog with me 2 weeks at a time, okay, but I'm the one creating relational change. I'm changing perceptions of how the dog sees me. I'm starting to gain momentum. I'm starting to get the dog into the follower role. But then at the same time, understanding the process, knowing that it has to line up. I have to bring the owner into agreement, okay, at the same time, to transfer this over. So it's like, you can picture this like giving the owner the keys to a brand new car, okay? So I'm the one that is doing the bulk of the work. But here, I'm actually having the owner participate, okay, to help to make it so that to give him the brand new car key, so to speak, is have to get him to be identified through the process. He's basically piggybacking off the work I'm doing. And so I'm scripting this in such a way so that at times, for example, when Jax is turning around towards me, I'm telling the owner to interrupt that state, to assert some influence, to communicate that, and so to get Jax's focus back to the owner. Okay, so here what I'm doing here, so when I first start the process where I'm lining up, you actually see me right beside the owner with Jax in the middle. So my role would be more front seat passenger. Okay, I'd be up here near the, with Jax in the middle, to line up that way. But now, as things are progressing, I'm in phase 3. I'm taking more of a back seat, okay, position here, but I'm still attached. Okay, I'm still applying a skill set here to make sure this is going to be at a very high level. Okay, that's key here. Understand what I'm doing here. And so here what I'm doing is I'm also multitasking. So understand that the issue of how communication's happening. So what you'll see in the video is I'm going to, I'm going to communicate influence. I'm going to communicate with Jax. If he's investing, if his head's turning and he's looking at, say, something on the shelf or people or kids or whatever it is, okay, I'm going to be communicating with him to say, no, you're to stay on task. So you'll see me nudge him a little bit, okay, and his head will turn inward. What I also am doing here is I'm focusing in on what I call mind role, okay, which means it's about the position. It's really important that when dogs have a certain level of control, you'll see how this plays out. They want to start to try to get out in front of the owner, okay? They want to find a way to try to get out and take the lead position. So here what I'm defining through this is, as Jax is beside the scooter, there's a position right here where is almost his nose has to be right behind the owner's knees. There's a position here, and how you can tell it's the right position is because the dog will begin to accept it and float. I call it just float. Will not try to push ahead. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm communicating for that too. I'm interrupting that state too. It's very subtle too, because here what's happening is Jax is coming into a really good position. Okay, we were doing the training yesterday. I was very happy with how this is playing out. I didn't have to assert very much communication with Jax. He's really coming into these positions really, really well. So, but I'm still communicating with him, basically telling him, no, you're to stay back. Okay, you need to be in the helper role. Do not even think about trying to get out in front here. You have to stay right back. But again, it's about what's reasonable. Okay, so he comes into agreement with that. That's the key here to understand as you're asserting influence is how this sets up, how changes define relationally. So again, I'm doing that. So I'm really focusing in on, and I'm able to do that. I'm able to really be able to really sense that. Okay, so as I'm using the leash, just understand how I'm using that leash. I can really sense the dog's state of mind. Okay, there's a real skill set here, and I tell people that. I mentioned on another video about putting all this stuff out and people wanting all this information. That's great, but there is a point where I encourage people. Again, if you want to really be able to take this system and be able to really use it the way that it's intended to be, there's a big thing with coming down and spending time with me. Okay, there's a lot going on here. I have to really be able to kind of hover over you to make sure this is coming together. But again, what I'm doing here is I'm sensing where his mind's at, and I'm again getting him back right within the perfect position. Okay, for him to come into agreement with that. So he's just floating along here, really good level of focus, and keying up on that. Now the other thing I'm doing too is if he's focusing, Jax had problems in the past about pieces of paper on the floor, or could be a leaf or whatever, really getting kind of keyed up on that. So what I'm doing is I'm paying attention to that too. And so if that's happening, I'm going to nudge him out of that. But at the same time, it's also really pushing the boundary lines too. When I'm doing training, it's about training this in so that it's about overcoming everything, this being really solid. So I'll be intentional with making sure there's pieces of paper on the floor, making sure that there's things that kind of tempt Jax a little bit. Again, not to over tempt them, but to tempt them with what's reasonable. Okay, so I can set it up so that he's going to stay focused. Okay, so again, so I'm multitasking that too, and at the same time, you'll see, I'll tell Jax's owner Al, if Jax focuses too much on me, I'm telling Al to nudge him out of that a little bit. Okay, communicate with him to assert some influence, to communicate to Jax to say, no, Dale's a backseat driver. I'm in control. Stay focused on me. So whatever I'm doing will what it does is it just naturally will align with Al. Okay, so again, just think about how this aligns. So these are like alignment exercises. I'm with Al, so I can apply a really high level, a really good skill set, and make sure this lines up. Okay, so but again, even with Jax accepting my control, okay, that's another thing that you'll see is how he responds with me there. Okay, and there's certain thing happening there back and forth that I'm assessing. As I'm assessing this, I'm watching, I'm paying attention to see how this all lines up. Okay, so it's very intentional with what I'm looking for here, just so people understand. I ultimately know as I go through these phases, there's benchmarks, so I can see how this stuff is coming together, and there's certain dynamics in play here that I know when I'm hitting certain marks. So again, I'm going to play some of this. So we're going through, see him, looking at me. I'm telling Al again here, nudge it. See, nudge him a little bit here. Al will nudge him here in a second. See, nudge him a little bit. Now here, what's happened here, he's thrown off a little bit because I pulled the GoPro out of my pocket. But again, he's just stay on task. And I saw me reach down with my hand there. What I'm doing is, I'm moving him over, right, so it's position. Al just gave him a down position here. I'm going to stop this for a second. Absolutely perfect. Okay, this is what you want to look for. See this position here? See how there's no leaning behavior? You don't want the dog leaning out. You want the dog to be in the perfect position, totally prone, and flattened out. Okay, so you want this position. But here's the thing to understand. When you make sure that everything lines up, okay, everything right from the sit, right from being back with the mind roll, okay, right from the sit position, being right where the dog defined relation, right in next to the scooter. When you line things up right from the start, everything else is gonna fall into place. Okay, just understand that. When you start to let the dog gain some control and start to move out, and everything will begin to fall apart. Okay, understand that too. Okay, so it's not just the position, it's mind and body. So understand, everything has to fall into the right sequence. Okay, everything has to line up. The expectations have to be a certain way when you're doing this. So again, perfect down position, right up into the sit. Now here too, understand that the sit position, so when Al comes to a stop in the scooter, the sit is trained in to be a default. Okay, which means when Al comes to a stop in the scooter and he's hovering there for any longer than a second, the dog is trained in for the dog to automatically go into the sit position. Now the down position is a command position. It's trained in so that if Al wants Jax to go into a down position, they'll say the word down and it's going to happen. But I'm adding this on in training. I'm making sure I'm putting lots of downs in here because it's very helpful to add that position on as you go through training. Okay, so but again, the down position is helpful too. So if there's say for example, especially in training, there's a lot of activity or a lot of stuff going on which really will cause Jax to get a little bit focused, is really get that down going on to keep him in, get his mind right into a really solid good state. Okay, so again, to move forward, watch some more video here. Now it's moving forward. Jax, see his pacing, really good. Excellent. And I'm barely, and here's the good news, I'm barely having to communicate with him. See the looseness of my leash here. See the looseness of Al's leash. If you pay attention to the leashes, you'll see how the communication sets up. Now, when talk about looseness of leashes, now here's the thing to understand about kinetics, okay? I'll get into some of this here, is I have to have the leash, okay, ready to go. So for example, if you pay attention to my videos, this is subtle stuff I'm talking about here that I don't usually talk about on some of my stuff, but kinetically, okay, yes, when you're communicating with a dog, okay, you don't want constant tightness of the leash, but it's got to be at the point where I do not have to move that leash. The leash is ready to go, so that if I have to communicate, there can't be too much slack. Okay, it's got to be just at the very edge of it. It's loose. Okay, there's slack, but if I need to, I just have to just pull on it just ever so slightly to communicate. So even in the slackness, in the tightness, okay, that matters as well. Okay, because if it's too slack, I'm pulling on it. I'm gonna have too much communication going on. Okay, so just even with how you use the leashes, understand even in that, kinetically, you want to make sure that everything is aligning properly so that you're very efficient and effective with how you set everything up. So you're watching, same thing, I'm watching here. Now I understand too, there's a lot of stuff happening here on if now I'm talking about it, but just understand on my videos, I'm doing service dog training. There's a lot going on. Okay, there's a lot of things I'm looking at. Again, tell him, tap him forward. See, tap him, focus on him. Down position. Just understand, too, there's some hover here, too. So if I need to, sometimes I'll tell Al, okay, I'll say, well, push on his back to flatten him out. I don't want too much hover here. Or I'll reach forward myself and push on his back a little bit to help to assert some influence and make sure there's not too much hang time. Okay, you don't want too much hang time when it comes to going down in the positions. So here what Al's going to do, Al's going to do the stay command. Okay, get him to stay in the position. He's putting his leash down there on top of Jax's back. He said stay. He's moving forward. I'm the backseat driver, and I'm going to line this up. Okay, so he's going from the down position right into the heel. Okay, give the heel command. Al did. Perfect. Really good. Very happy with that. Tapping him forward again. I didn't have to do very much there at all. Al's moving forward. Now here you're going to see some more activity happen in here. More people coming out here in a moment, which is what you want. Okay, you train for distractions. Now here, this is a funny little scene's going to happen here in a second. I call it drive-by petting. And I'll talk about this, these things that happen, and why you need to train for it. Okay, you can't be into a panic state that someone's going to pet your service dog, because crazy stuff happens. Okay, right here. Watch this lady. Now, she didn't ask, can I pet your service dog? Okay. She didn't say, she just walked by and look what she did. A drive-by petting, okay. Just reached out, just said to herself, you know what, I want to pet this dog. So here's the thing. You have to train in for crazy crap. Okay, stuff is going to happen that, but at the same time, this is why you don't want to be walking on eggshells. I mean, I talk about these service dogs. The problem with a lot of these service dogs is people are almost into a panic state that something's going to happen or go wrong, and they get really tense about it. So you go into these stores, you don't want to be tense and, concerned that this is going to happen, it's going to throw the dog off. Well, what I suggest is if the dog's getting thrown off, it means that dog is not at the level it needs to be in the first place. Okay, I use the example when I, was doing the police dog handling years ago. I could take my police dog into the schools, and I would work it in. So I would do of course the 30 plus kids in the classroom would want to pet all over Ruben, right? Which is great. I mean, he loved that, right? But it's about right relationship. It's about making sure Ruben was truly in a follower state when that happened. But I would work that in. So I'd say, I'd be in there for doing the drug awareness exercise, right? The kids would love to see the police dog, find the drugs. But I would say to them, set up. So say, listen, guys, you want to pet Ruben? That's great. Once he finds the drugs, okay, you guys can all pet him, and he'll think that's great anyway. He's getting a reward for showing you guys what he does, but that would be set up so that, again, I would use that as an opportunity, right, for training. But then the interesting thing is, okay, this shows you the same as I'm comparing it to this. When all the kids would be, and they would like surround Ruben. There'd be like 30 kids all over him, in a big circle, petting all over him and stuff. He thought it was great. But, I'd be standing, at a distance, right? Ruben's off leash. And, when there's like a break in the kids, I could see through there's a little gap. You could see Ruben just looking right at me. So what relation was happening, okay, that's fine. These kids are petting all over you, but I own everything. I own them. And not in a bad way. It's about right relationship. So having that level of control so that never once they think that anything bad is going to happen. Ruben's fully trained for protection. Okay, I never once had an accident or a bad episode because it's about training up for that. Okay, it's understanding how that all lines up. So here's the same thing. So you have a drive-by petting. Don't want it to happen. Okay, and I'll tell Al, make sure you don't want people thinking they can pet a service dog, right? But at the same time, okay, what if you have I've had that happen. I've had a, parent come over with their autistic child and, saying, can my son or daughter, can they pet your service dog? I mean, what are you going to say? No, you can't. No. I mean, come on. I mean, it's like the same thing. Don't you want to have that ability to say, okay, this one time, sure, you can pet on the top of Jax's head and feel good about it, but knowing that doesn't throw anything off. So that's what training should be about. You should be not, accommodating the dog. Okay, so many people and that's the problem with service dogs nowadays, is that so many these dogs are not at that level, and you want them to be, because they need to be in a helper role. If you have to accommodate the dog that much that you're in a panic state, that dog really is not in the helper role to begin with. So I would encourage you to really think about that. So here, yes, I had the drive-by petting happen. Look at Jax's reaction. Okay, didn't go crazy, didn't get thrown off too much by that at all. Right, back on course, no problem. So we're moving forward here again. Now here, I captured 5 minutes of this video. We were in the store for an hour. Okay, when I go into the stores with Al, we're in there going through this, really, lining this up. So now, like I said, I'm in a back seat roll position, back driver roll position. See looking at me, tapping forward. See that? So again, Al and I were coordinating back and forth. He knows his job, his responsibilities, right? And I know mine. And it works well together. So we just work off each other. And it's fun honestly, it's fun for the owner too. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the owner being engaged in some of the training like this, because you know what? It makes them feel good. They enjoy it. They're part of the training process. They're learning. And, it's a fun thing. I mean, it was a great day. We had a really good time, believe it or not, in the store. It feels really good when things are coming together like this. Now here Al is going to now do the stand position. Okay, so he's lining this up. So in training, you want Jax to be able to stand up in a support role, so Al can use him to steady himself, so he can move from either get up from the chair to get something, whatever he's doing. So here's getting him forward. So here's forward. Now here, this is great that I'm doing some commentary here. So here, what I'm focused on, so now Al's starting to bear some weight on top of Jax. Now what I'm looking for here, because you'll see a moment happen here, is I need Jax to stay on task. So if his head's turning around, he's losing focus, my backseat driver roll, I'm nudging the leash slightly, okay, to get Jax back on track, to stay focused. So he's not going to be moving around. He's got to stay on course. So here we see, now right here, see what happens? See Jax's head turn? I saw it turn around. I nudged him a little bit to communicate with him to say, no, you stay focused on what you need to be doing right now. Don't be looking at the beer over here, right? Don't be thinking about getting a drink on me right now. Stay on course. There you go. And then back into the sit position, right? Had to slide him in a little bit here. See, so when I need to, and then tap the leash again, right? And then Al's going to tap the leash. Tap, tap, tap. Get him around. There we go. Excellent. Al's getting some sleep out of Jax's eye there for a second. So shaking, I'm going to tap him out of that too. I don't want him getting off script here. So guy goes by. Talking a little bit with the dog. And people will do that. But, people come by and they want to talk about the dog and everything. That's great. It really does. It connects with people. So there's nothing wrong with that. But just you want to stay on track too. It's like a peripheral thing. When you're talking, whatever, you need to be making sure the dog isn't losing focus. Okay, you need the dog to be maintaining focus on the the role that the dog needs to be in. Okay, it's about what's reasonable. Okay, again, moving forward here. There we go. I'll stop it here. So again, this is great because again, I just want to be able to comment on what's going on. You see, in reality, there's a lot going on. Just understand, there's a lot happening. There's a lot I'm looking at. There's a lot that needs to happen. But again, it was a great training session. Jax has come along really, really well. I didn't have to assert a lot of communication, a lot of backseat driving skills here because, again, phase 3 here, it's coming together really, really well. So anyway, hopefully the video, the commentary here helps you understand exactly how this lines up. I'll be putting out some more videos as well. But anyway, thanks for watching. Have a great day.